Homes are crumbling in Attawapiskat. Over $100 million in taxpayer money is unaccounted for, but the chief of the Northern Ontario Reserve calls these facts a distraction. An audit found 60% of spending by the Attawapiskat First Nation had no supporting documentation. It's unclear how the band spent over $100 million over 6 years. But Chief Theresa Spence claims the audit is a means of discrediting her cause. Spence kicked out the media when asked about the band's finances on Monday, but what began as a so-called hunger strike in Ottawa has now morphed into a demand for the government to repeal its budget bills. Kristy Kirkup is following this developing story for us, and she joins us now live in our parliamentary bureau. So, Kristy, how is Spence responding to the audit? Are we hearing anything from her camp today?
Well, her team actually just recently put out a release kind of highlighting a recent study that was just revealed, particularly about some cancer-causing toxins related to the development of Canada's oil sands. And certainly, as you mentioned, there has been concerns about some of the measures contained within the government's second omnibus budget bill that passed third reading in the House of Commons. And this has been something that First Nations leaders have been talking about for a really long time. In fact, there was a mass demonstration on the day when this bill was read. It faced third reading in the House of Commons, and that was the day when there was a mass protest on the steps of Parliament Hill where First Nations leaders actually tried to get into the House of Commons to sound the alarm. So Spence is obviously sharing concerns that are being raised by some other leaders as well, specifically about measures including the gutting of the Navigable Waters Protection Act, and that essentially gives companies the green light in order to be able to build dams and other construction on lakes and rivers, and they don't actually have to consult with the federal government. And these concerns really are at the heart of a lawsuit, a legal battle that has really been brought forward. I guess just to be clear, there's two First Nations. There's the Mickey Sioux Cree First Nation and the Frog Lake First Nation. They're both from Alberta, and actually they are both located in proximity to the oil sands. They say they are both in favor of development. In fact, Frog Lake actually has oil and drilling facilities on site at their particular reserve, but they say that the Navigable Waters Protection Act and other environmental measures that are being removed in Bill C-45, the second budget bill, as well as some changes in the government's first budget bill, really are slashing environmental protections they say need to be in place. So they're saying development, but not development at all costs. They want to make sure that those environmental protections are in place. And there was a press conference in Ottawa earlier today where one of the chiefs kind of outlined some of his legal concerns, and here's a bit of what he had to say.
We are asking the courts to confirm that what the government did is not legal. Order the government to engage in real consultation with us. Order the government to stop implementing these two bills until consultation has been completed, and act as a referee as the consultation takes place to make sure they're done properly. Over the years, the courts have made it clear that all levels of government must consult with First Nations.
So it is unclear, Sneha. When we were talking about Spence, of course, she has been on her liquid diet at Ottawa's Victoria Island that's located in the shadows of Parliament Hill. Originally, she was calling for a meeting with the Prime Minister, and there is going to be a meeting on Friday with Aboriginal leaders and the Prime Minister. So certainly that was something that she actually was successful in trying to, I guess, get the government to sit down with Aboriginal leaders. But now it's unclear if she's going to be continuing her efforts until or if the government actually thinks about pulling back on these particular budget bills.
Yeah, and Kristy, when it comes to this meeting that is slated for Friday, what do we expect will be achieved, or what are we hearing from First Nations or even the government in terms of what they hope to achieve?
Well, certainly the government has really made economic development in First Nations communities at the heart of their focus when it comes to Aboriginal communities. Also, education is a big focus for them. And certainly this was a shared priority that came out of the Crown First Nations gathering that happened in January last year. It is clear from the Assembly of First Nations that the meeting that's going to be happening on Friday isn't of this scale. It's a gathering to kind of outline some of the concerns raised by the recent Idle No More protests, and certainly they're going to try and sit down and maybe dial back on some of the tensions, Neha.
All right. Thank you, Kristy.
Thank you.
That is Kristy Kirkup reporting live in our Parliamentary Bureau.